Welcome back. Today, I want to talk about how to add luxury to your next trip. And I want to start by saying this clearly because the word luxury can mean so many different things to so many different people. So, let's level set. When some people hear luxury travel, they picture private jets, five-star everything, excess, or a lifestyle that feels completely unreachable. That's not what I mean. For me, luxury is relative. Luxury isn't a price tag, it isn't a destination, and it definitely isn't perfection. Luxury, the way I'm using it here, is what reduces friction in your life. Luxury embraces ease, so presence is possible. And as a homeschooling mom, presence isn't just a nice idea. Presence is what makes the trip work. Because you're not just traveling, you're guiding, you're noticing, you're observing, you're helping your child process and learn. And you're also still a mother, managing energy, meals, transitions, patience, and sleep. So, this episode is not a checklist. You don't need all of these suggestions. They're just things for you to consider. And you might want to adapt maybe one, maybe two. And it's also important to note what feels luxurious in one season of motherhood might feel completely unnecessary or not even appealing in another. So, as you listen, I want you to hold one gentle question in the background. Where does travel feel hardest for you right now? Because that's where luxury belongs first. Once you start looking at luxury this way, something shifts. Luxury stops being about what you can add, and it actually becomes about what you can remove, like pressure, rushing, or decision fatigue. Luxury is rarely additive, it's usually subtractive. And the reason I'm so convinced of this is because of the invisible cost of friction. Travel friction doesn't only make a trip feel stressful in the moment, it creates an emotional recovery period afterward. That time when everyone is tired, irritable, disconnected, and it takes days to feel normal again. Ease, on the other hand, shortens the recovery window. So, when I think about adding luxury to a trip, I'm not thinking about indulgence. I'm thinking about support. I'm thinking about designing the trip so that I can show up calm and emotionally present. And that usually starts with the most basic thing: where you stay, your accommodations. Because space is one of the simplest forms of luxury, and it matters even more when you're traveling with children. Nobody wants to feel cramped on vacation. I certainly don't. And I don't care how beautiful the hotel is. If everyone is piled into one tight room, fatigue amplifies everything. Little irritations become big ones. Overstimulation rises. Sleep gets worse. And suddenly the trip feels like survival. So, one of the easiest ways to add luxury to a trip is choosing accommodations that actually support your family's rhythm. That might look like a family-friendly resort or a boutique hotel where you can get a spacious suite, separate bathrooms, or a layout that lets everyone breathe. And for me personally, ease often includes a large suite with a balcony when it's available. Fresh air changes everything. A balcony gives you a place to exhale at the end of the day. It gives your child a quiet space to look out, to decompress. And it gives you space to be present without feeling trapped in one room. It also creates flexibility in a way that supports real family life. There are mornings when your child may want to sleep in. And if you're in a space that allows you to still have a calm morning, you don't have to choose between wake up the child and sit in silence in the dark. I love being able to step out or sit near a window and have breakfast with a view on those mornings. Not because it's fancy or Instagrammable, but because it's peaceful. It's ease. It's emotional safety. It's a mother being allowed to breathe without the trip turning into an all or nothing schedule. A private pool can also be one of those quiet luxury decisions for families. Not because it's extravagant, but because it reduces friction. Your child can play and practice their swimming techniques. You can relax, and you don't have to do another transition, or pack another bag, or manage another environment. It gives you privacy and simplicity in the same breath. And then there's another layer that I really love because it blends luxury and learning so naturally. And that is on-site educational programs. This is usually where the kids club comes in, but I'm not talking about programs that are only entertainment. I'm talking about properties that offer workshops, cultural activities, hands-on sessions, or experiences that complement what you're already doing as a homeschool parent. That's where education and luxury really collide in the best way. You get relaxation, your child gets enrichment, and you aren't carrying every single moment on your shoulders. Another option that can be beautiful for homeschooling travel is a private villa rental. Villas can give you the comforts of home with luxury amenities, personalized service in some cases, and a setting that supports quality family time. And if you want to create opportunities for independent learning without making the trip feel like school, you can choose a villa with a dedicated study area. Not to recreate a classroom, but to create a calm corner for reading, journaling, language practice, or simply looking up something your child asked during the day. Now, in Italy specifically, there's an accommodation style that I've researched and I really want to mention because it fits this philosophy so well, even though I have not personally done it yet. And that is agriturismos. They're farm stays, and many of them offer experiences connected to agriculture and local culture. It's the kind of learning that doesn't feel like a lesson. It feels like life. It feels slow, rooted, and real. It's a beautiful example of luxury as depth and not display. And to your question about visiting without staying, yes, in many cases you can visit an agriturismo without booking an overnight stay. Some offer day visits, meals, farm tours, tastings, or workshops. I've actually engaged in the farm tours and the workshops. It really depends on the property. So you would want to check the specific agriturismo's policies and hours, but it can absolutely be an option for families who want the learning experience without making it their home base. And the larger point here is this: sometimes luxury starts with choosing a home base that supports both comfort and learning. Now, once your home base is supportive, the next place luxury makes a huge difference is in cultural experiences. Because homeschooling travel isn't just about seeing places, it's about understanding them. And you can deepen cultural immersion by choosing experiences that feel more personal and less crowded. Instead of doing standard tourist attractions, you can seek out private guided experiences or exclusive cultural tours that offer personalized insight into the destination. The reason a private guide matters, especially with children, is because it changes the experience from walk through a place to being guided through meaning. It creates space for your child to ask questions. It also gives them a relationship to the information, not just exposure. Italy is one of the strongest examples of this because so much of what you're seeing is layered: history, art, architecture, religion, engineering, and politics. Without context, it can become overwhelming. So, in Rome, something like visiting the Colosseum becomes completely different when someone can translate it into a story your child can actually hold on to. And then the Vatican and the Sistine Chapel become something deeper when there's guidance instead of just crowds and sensory overload. You can look at different art pieces and really know and learn the stories behind them. Rome is also full of those small moments that become real learning. Seeing obelisks around the city and realizing they have a history, a journey, and a meaning. That one observation can turn into a whole conversation about ancient civilization, power, symbolism, and how artifacts move through time. It's interesting because that same obelisk can be seen in places like Istanbul, Turkey. So the continuity of these artifacts also becomes noticed and meaningful. In Milan, the portrait of the Last Supper is another perfect example of luxury as access. That experience often requires timed entry. It benefits from context, and it becomes less stressful and more meaningful when you approach it intentionally. And when you add in the quieter spaces, like famous basilicas, you also get something that's hard to quantify but very real. Children instinctively soften in those environments. They observe differently. They ask questions differently. They experience awe, and that matters. Now, I want to pivot into something that feels like a different category but actually connects directly. Food. Because food is one of the most natural ways to blend luxury, learning, and bonding without it feeling like an educational activity. Some families are foodies. Some families bond over meals. And food is culture. Food is also history, it's geography, it's tradition, and food is chemistry. So, Gourmet dining and culinary experiences can be a luxurious way to enhance a trip while still supporting learning. This might look like choosing an upscale restaurant for one special meal, or even a private dining experience that feels intimate and calm. It can also look like booking a food tour. A market based food tour is especially wonderful for children because it turns the city into a classroom. You can hear stories, see ingredients, learn why food matters culturally, and make it fun. When you think of places like Paris or even Berlin, Munich, food tours that can include sampling traditional foods like pretzels, cheeses, visiting markets, bakeries, and cheese shops, and learning through experience instead of a worksheet. Culinary workshops are another favorite because children get to do something with their hands. Think macarons or crepes in France, spaghetti in Bologna. Those are not just meals, they're cultural learning, process learning, patience learning. And in Italy specifically, even watching gelato being made can become both luxurious and educational. Not just eating gelato, which is also fun, but seeing how it's made, talking about ingredients and noticing textures, understanding why it's different. That's learning, and it's also joy. Now, let's talk about a category that matters deeply for mothers, and that's comfort. Comfort is not about status. Comfort is about energy. I strive to embrace comfort and ease because I know what happens when comfort isn't protected. The trip becomes harder, patience is thinner, and everyone is less regulated. Long haul flights with children can be demanding, and I've done a 10-hour flight with a 4-year-old. Now she's 6, and we've graduated to more like 12-hour flights depending on our destination, but the reality still holds. Having a flatbed seat for extended naps, meals, and snacks can change the entire emotional experience of travel. Flying business class or first class often comes with more space, more attentive service, and the ability for children to sleep comfortably, which reduces restlessness and discomfort. Airport lounges matter for the same reason. A lounge gives you a calm environment away from the terminal, although now they're a lot more crowded than historically. But you can still get comfortable seating. You can get snacks and beverages, which are very important for children as they travel and as they move about in the day. Sometimes there's showers available and even children's spaces. And it creates a peaceful buffer so you're not already overstimulated before you even board. Comfort also shows up in transportation. Private transfers can be a form of luxury because they reduce confusion and stress. Drivers assist with luggage. You avoid navigating the unknown while tired. Sometimes there is Wi-Fi or refreshments, and you arrive feeling refreshed instead of depleted. Now, we also have convenience. And convenience is one of those things that sounds boring until you travel with kids and realize convenience is the trip. There are 3 major tools that I think can change the entire airport experience for families, and that would include Clear, TSA PreCheck and or Global Entry, and Meet and Greet airport services. TSA PreCheck simplifies screening. Your shoes get to stay on, your belt stays on, You don't have to unpack your whole bag looking for your laptop, and that reduction in hassle is a form of luxury. We also have Claire, and Claire uses biometric identity verification, which streamlines the identification process and can let you bypass long lines at participating airports. And when you're traveling with children, reducing time in lines isn't just about speed, it's also about reducing stress. Because as you know, kids get restless. I will never forget when my daughter was in a long line and she was just, you know, not having a good time. Parents get tense, and everyone starts the trip already depleted. Using both Claire and TSA PreCheck together can make travel feel radically smoother. One speeds up identity verification, the other speeds up the screening process. It's efficiency, convenience, and stress reduction all in one. And then there's the meet and greet services, which I think more families should know exists. Meet and greet services can provide personalized assistance from the moment you arrive at the airport. There's usually a dedicated agent that can help with check in, baggage handling, and guide you through security and immigration. Families can receive priority access, sometimes lounge access, and overall it reduces the number of moving parts you have to manage while also managing children. It helps when you visit a country that you're not very familiar with so that you can navigate a lot smoother. It's support again, and luxury again is support. Now, once you've handled comfort and convenience, you can actually enjoy the reason you traveled in the first place. That's when memorable experiences become truly meaningful. Luxury experiences don't have to be constant. Sometimes you choose one intentional moment, one special activity that becomes a core memory. In Italy, those moments can be beautifully specific. In Venice, a gondola ride can be more than a photo. It can be a conversation about city design, waterways, and history. Watching blown glass being made on Murano becomes craftsmanship, heat, technique, patience, and tradition. In Sorrento, lemon groves become a real world lesson in agriculture, local economy, and sensory learning. In Rome, the Trevi Fountain can become a moment about ritual, symbolism, and continuity. And across Rome, Milan, Naples, Venice, Sorrento, and even ports like Civitavecchia, what makes experiences feel luxurious is not necessarily how expensive they are. It's that you're not rushing through them. Which brings me to the quiet luxury that holds everything together. Time. Time is a luxurious element of life. Homeschooling often gives families the flexibility to pace themselves differently. You're not bound to school schedules and holidays in the same way. Slow travel, with its unhurried pace and deeper immersion, can be one of the most luxurious choices a family can make. Instead of rushing from destination to destination, you spend time in fewer places. You explore markets. You return to familiar streets. Your child hears the language repeatedly. You build confidence. Learning deepens because it isn't rushed. And even when you add something brief, like a short add on to Switzerland, It doesn't have to be about doing more. It can be about contrast and integration, a calmer rhythm before returning home. And finally, I want to name something that often goes unsaid. Learning in luxury can have advantages that are deeper than comfort. Luxurious settings and experiences can enhance engagement because they can be immersive. They can elevate learning experiences through access to experts and curated opportunities. They increase motivation because children feel excited and valued. Also, they can broaden perspective, helping children understand the world with more empathy and awareness. And yes, one might argue that the ability to homeschool at all is a luxury. It's flexibility, it's personalization, it's quality time, and it's the freedom to learn outside a classroom. So, to wrap this up, adding luxury to your next trip doesn't mean you need to do everything. It doesn't mean extravagance. It can mean choosing a more supportive home base, maybe a suite with space, maybe a balcony for fresh air, maybe breakfast with a view on the mornings your child sleeps in. It can mean adding a guided cultural experience so learning is deeper and the day is less draining. It can mean a food tour, a workshop, or simply slowing down enough to watch gelato being made and let that be a learning moment. It can mean choosing comfort in travel days through business class, lounges, and private tours. It can mean convenience through Clear, TSA PreCheck, or Global Entry, and meet and greet services that reduce stress and save time. It can mean building in wellness and downtime so the trip doesn't become survival. And it can mean slow travel so learning can actually settle. Luxury is relative. Luxury reduces friction, and luxury embraces ease. So I'll leave you with the question I asked at the beginning. Where does travel feel hardest for you right now? Because that's where ease is missing, and that's often where luxury belongs. If you want something written to sit with, I've shared more on the blog. Thank you for being here.